first of the three spirits. When Scrooge awoke, it was so dark that looking out of his bed, he could scarcely distinguish the transparent window from the opaque walls of his chamber, until suddenly the church clock tolled a deep, dull, hollow melancholy. Light flashed up in the room upon the instant, and the curtains of his bed were drawn aside by a strange figure like a child, yet not so childlike, as like an old man, viewed through some supernatural medium which gave him the appearance of having receded from the view and being diminished to a child's proportions. Its hair, which hung about its neck and down its back, was white as if with age, and yet the face had not a wrinkle on it, and the tenderest bloom was on the skin. It held a branch of fresh green holly in its hand, and in singular contradiction of the wintry emblem, had its dress trimmed with summer flowers, in its duller moments a great extinguisher for a cap, which it now held under its arm.
Are you the spirit, sir, whose coming was foretold to me?
I am.
Who and what are you?
I am the ghost of Christmas past.
Long past?
No, your past. The things that you will see with me are shadows of the things that have been. They will have no consciousness of us.
Scrooge then made bold to inquire what business brought him there.
Why are you here?
Your welfare. Rise and walk with me.
It would have been in vain for Scrooge to plead that the weather and the hour were not adapted to pedestrian purposes. That bed was warm, and the thermometer a long way below freezing. That he was clad but lightly in his slippers, dressing gown, and nightcap. And that he had a cold upon him at that time. The grasp, though gentle as a woman's hand, was not to be resisted. He rose, but finding that the spirit made towards the window, clasped its robe in supplication.
I am a mortal and liable to fall.
Bear but a touch of my hand on your heart, and you shall be upheld in more than this.
As the words were spoken, they passed through the wall and stood in the busy thoroughfares of a city. It was made plain enough by the dressing of the shops that here, too, it was Christmas time.
Do you know this place?
Know it? Was I apprenticed here?
They went in, at the sight of an old gentleman in a Welsh wig sitting behind such a high desk that if it had been 2 inches taller, he may have knocked his head against the ceiling.
Why, it's old Fezziwig. Bless his heart, it's Fezziwig. Alive again.
Old Fezziwig laid down his pen and looked up at the clock, which pointed to the hour of 7. He rubbed his hands, adjusted his capacious waistcoat.
Yo-ho there, Ebenezer, Dick.
A living and moving picture of Scrooge's former self, a young man came briskly in, accompanied by his fellow apprentice.
Dick Wilkins, to be sure. My old fellow apprentice, bless me, yes, there he is. Was very much attached to me, was Dick. Poor Dick. Dear, dear.
Yo-ho, my boys. No more work today. Christmas Eve, Dick. Christmas, Ebenezer. Let's have the shutters up before a man could see you, Jack Robinson. Clear away, my lads, and let's have a lots of room here.
Clear away. There was nothing they wouldn't have cleared away or couldn't have cleared away with old Fezziwig looking on. It was done in a minute. Every movable was packed off as if it were dismissed from public life forevermore. The floor was swept and watered. The lamps were trimmed. Fuel was heaped upon the fire. And the warehouse was as snug and warm and dry and bright a ballroom as you would desire to see upon a winter's night. In came a fiddler with a music book and went up to the lofty desk and made an orchestra of it and tuned like 50 stomach aches. In came Mrs. Fezziwig, one vast substantial smile. In came 3 Miss Fezziwigs beaming and lovable. In came 6 young followers whose hearts they'd broke. In came all the young men and women employed in the business. In came the housemaids with her cousin, the baker. In came the cook with her brother's particular friend, the milkman. In they all came, one after another, some shyly, some boldly, some gracefully, some awkwardly, some pushing, some pulling. In they all came, anyhow and everyhow. Away they all went, 20 couples at once, hands half round and back again the other way, down the middle and up again, round and round in various stages of affectionate grouping. Old top couple always turning up in the wrong place, new top couple starting off again as soon as they got there. All top couples at last, and not a bottom one to help them out. When this result was brought about, old Fezziwig clapped his hands to stop the dance, and the fiddler plunged his hot face into a pot of porter, especially provided for that purpose. There were more dances, and there were more forfeits, and more dances, and there was cake, and there was negus, and there was a great piece of cold roast, and there was a great piece of cold boiled, and there were mince pies and plenty of beer. But the great effect of the evening came after the roast and boiled, when the fiddler struck up. Then old Fezziwig stood out to dance with Mrs. Fezziwig, top couple too, with a good stiff piece of work cut out for them. 3 or 4 and 20 pair of partners, people who were not to be trifled with, people who would dance and had no notion of walking. When everybody had retired but the 2 prentices, they did the same to them, and thus the cheerful voices died away, and the lads were left to their beds, which were under the counter in the back shop.
A small matter to make these silly folks so full of gratitude. He has spent but a few pounds of your mortal money, 3 or 4 perhaps. Is that so much that he deserves this praise?
It isn't that, Spirit. He has the power to render us happy or unhappy, to make our service light or burdensome, a pleasure or a toil. Say that his power lies in words and looks, in things so slight and insignificant that it is impossible to add and count them up. What then? The happiness he gives is as quite as if it cost a fortune.
He felt the spirit's glance and stopped.
Should like to be able to say a word or two to my clerk just now, that's all.
My time grows short. Quick!
This was not addressed to Scrooge or to any whom he could see, but it produced an immediate effect, for again he saw himself. He was older now, a man in the prime of life. He was not alone, but sat by the side of a fair young girl in a black dress, in whose eyes there were tears.
It matters little to you, very little. Another idol has displaced me, and if it can comfort you in time to come, as I would have tried to do, I have no just cause to grieve. You fear the world too much. I have seen your nobler aspirations fall off one by one until the master passion gain engrosses you. Have I not?
What then? Even if I have grown so much wiser, what then? I am not changed towards you. Have I ever sought release from our engagement?
In words, no. Never.
In what then?
In a changed nature, in an altered spirit, in another atmosphere of life, another hope at its great end. If you were free today, tomorrow, yesterday, can I even believe that you would choose a dowerless girl? Or choosing her, do I not know that your repentance and regret would surely follow? I do, and I release you with a full heart for the love of him you once were.
Spirit, remove me from this place.
I told you these were shadows of the things that have been, that they are what they are. Do not blame me.
Remove me! I cannot bear it. Leave me. Take me back. Haunt me no longer.
As he struggled with the spirit, he was conscious of being exhausted and overcome by an irresistible drowsiness, and further of being in his own bedroom. He had barely time to reel to bed before he sank into a heavy sleep. Merry Christmas.